Hey everyone, it's Courtney. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a chocolate chip quick bread. So let's get started. First, we're going to set our oven to 350 degrees and get this preheating. In a bowl, you're going to add 6 tablespoons of softened butter. I'm just going to slice the butter up into smaller pieces. This just makes it easier to work with. Next, we're adding 3/4 cup of white granulated sugar. And now, using a hand mixer, I'm just going to cream the butter and the sugar together. Next, we're going to add 3 eggs. Next, we're going to be adding in our vanilla, 1 tablespoon. I'm using a half of a tablespoon measurement here, so I'm just doing 2 of those. I also didn't have pure vanilla extract. I have imitation. Use what you have. And again, I'm just going to mix everything together until incorporated. Next, add half a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of baking powder. Next, we're going to be adding in 2 cups of flour. However, I'm going to do this in 1 cup increments. So I'm going to add in 1 cup right now, and then I'm going to mix it together and then add in the 2nd cup and mix that together. Also, if you're not using salted butter, you're going to want to add a half of a teaspoon of salt. However, if you are using salted butter, omit it. So as I continued mixing with this, I found that this recipe at this stage was very thick and I almost had a hard time mixing it. However, I did look at the recipe and we will be adding in milk in just a few steps, so that did kind of help. But by the time I added in the 2nd bit of flour, it was really thick. So as you can see, it's really starting to thicken up through here. I think if I redid this recipe, I would probably add in a little bit of milk at this point, maybe a tablespoon or 2, just to help it because it was just so thick where it didn't have a whole lot of liquid or moisture in the recipe at this point. Next, the recipe called for either a cup of milk or a cup of buttermilk. All I had was whole milk on hand, so that's what I used. So now the recipe calls for us to combine the milk and everything together to make the batter. Like I said, if I make this recipe again, I would add in a couple tablespoons, if not maybe even a 1/4 of a cup of the milk in when I added in the flour, just because I think it really could have used the moisture then. But this is just the recipe. This is how I'm following it. In the end, the batter did incorporate very nicely and it turned out great, but I think just for ease, I would probably add in a little bit of milk with the flour. Now I'm just going to take a silicone spatula and scrape down the sides. That way everything is completely mixed in. Next, we're adding in 1 cup of chocolate chips. I'm using milk chocolate chips. You can use semi-sweet or dark chocolate, depending on whatever you like. You can also use more or less, your choice. I'm just going to fold this in and we're going to be ready to put it into our pan. Now I'm going to take my 9x5 loaf pan and I'm just going to spray that with some nonstick spray. Alright, now we're just going to pour in our batter and we're good to go. Now that we're ready, we're going to put this into the oven for 1 hour at 350 degrees. You can go up to 1 hour and 5 minutes, which is actually what I ended up doing. I found that 1 hour just wasn't quite enough almost, but the extra 5 minutes really helped. After an hour and 5 minutes, my chocolate chip loaf was done. Here's what it looked like straight out of the oven. I'm just going to test it to make sure it's done. Toothpick came out clean, so we're good. So I let this bread sit for about a half an hour before cutting it open. I did give this a try and I actually really like this. It's not really sweet or anything. It has just the amount of sweetness. I like something like this for breakfast. So to me, I think it was perfect and it tastes delicious. So I'm going to leave a link to the original recipe where I found this down below. And I'll also have all of the information for this recipe in the bottom bar as well. Thank you guys for cooking with me today. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you like this recipe. See you guys later. Bye.